Well, hello everybody. I'm Hooker, and we're fixing to review Lower Decks Episode 6, Terminal Provocations. It was a pretty good episode. The three plots were, the A plot was the ship's mission to stop the species, the Drukmani scavengers, from claiming over 100-year-old wreck. It had a bunch of Starfleet stuff in it fighting over. The Drukmani didn't have any weapons, and it came toe-to-toe with the Cerritos. And what they did was they reversed their polarity on their tractor beams and was throwing stuff at the Cerritos. And the Cerritos wouldn't come down to that level, was trying to make peace with them and do a diplomatic solution. So mostly through that plot line, they were just taking a beating because they refused that. And that was just driving Lieutenant Shax, the security officer, nuts. He wasn't allowed to fire on them. So as the Drukmani scavengers kept throwing wreckage at the Cerritos, it was driving the security chief nuts. So, but it was funny, it played along. And the B plot was Mariner and Boimler and a new ensign, a friend of Boimler's, Fletcher, which we are introduced in this episode. They are changing out the core, isolinear chips on the core. And Boimler and Mariner wanted to go to a choo-choo dance, which was really exciting, but they had to do this. So Fletcher says he will do it and let them go ahead and go to the choo-choo dance. So that's what happens. So they leave Fletcher alone. They go to the choo-choo dance, have some fun, and take their shirts off and go back to see where Fletcher is. And he's out laying on the ground. He wakes up and he tells a tale of somebody knocking him out and taking the core. So they're trying to chase it down. So they figure out who could do that. Somebody has to know how to do that. So it's got to be the Delta crew. So they confront the Delta crew, and it gets a little out of hand with Fletcher. And pretty soon, Delta crew proves that they weren't the ones doing it, because they were also at the choo-choo dance. So then they think it's the aliens, the Drukmani scavengers, that stole it, or Fletcher does, excuse me. But to take it to the captain, they have to prove it. So they go back to their bunks to get the scanners, and then they find out the core is on Fletcher's bunk. And then he tells them the truth, and it's not good. It's just really a dumb story. So they decide, okay, let's try and help Fletcher get it done and redo the core and put it back. The ship is needing that because they're actually getting pummeled by wreckage from the scavengers. And then the core kind of comes alive and wanting to be smarter, and starts ingesting all these electronics and technological goods. And so they're trying to capture it and take it to the transporter and blow it out into space. And then Fletcher has another dumb idea about feeding it more stuff and let it beat all of them up and then say a Q did it. Well, that doesn't sit well with Boimler or Mariner, so they tie him up and they start dragging this core off. And they decide they're not going to be able to keep up with the core, that they're never going to make it to the transporter. So they decide to shoot it out the airlock. Once it shoots out the airlock, they're kind of a little bit relieved, and then they oh shit, it starts floating over to the Drukmani scavengers ship. And yeah, it attaches itself to the Drukmani scavenger ship and starts tearing up its hull. Well, at that point, they're like, oh shit, we're going to get fired. Let's switch back to the A plot. They've tried everything. The captain finally gives security officer Shax permission to fire on the ship. And he looks down, oh no, the weapons are offline, so they can't do anything. So at this point, it's looking grim. They're going to abandon ship, and then that's where they see the core float over and attach and disrupts the Drukmani scavenger ship, and it just kind of lifts off screen. So that was the conclusion of that scavenger part. Now the C plot was Tandy and Rutherford about spacewalking. Magnet, float. We've seen it in the trailers. Well, he takes her to the holodeck to train her, and he has this holodeck training program he's been building, and he introduces it to Tandy, and it's Badgie. Like a Star Trek Delta character with little wiry arms and legs. Kind of cute. Reminds me of the Microsoft Paperclip assistant back in the day, and that was dumb. I can understand where some people liked it. Now, it was funny, but serviced the story, and it's the holodeck. Anything really can happen, I guess. If that character was outside the holodeck, I really wouldn't have liked the episode, but anything can happen in the holodeck, so we'll let it slide. So while he's showing her how to spacewalk, walk, their boots get attracted, and Tandy and Rutherford have a moment that looks like, oh, they're going to get together. But then it kind of gets cut short. They get pulled apart, and Badgie comes on and says, oh, that's right, you wanted to recover cargo in space. So he glitches, and then the glitching from the attack from the Drukmani affects the power. And in so doing, it corrupts Badgie. So he becomes a little bit evil, bites and attacks Rutherford, and so they have to escape. The safety protocols are down on the holodeck. So Rutherford switches it from space to a Bajoran marketplace, which it looks pretty cool. It was good to see the Bajoran people. And so Badgie chases them through the Bajoran marketplace, killing the holodeck characters pretty gruesomely, but it was okay. And then Rutherford switches it from the Bajoran. So they're going up this mountain, up these steps of the mountain, and Rutherford finds that Badgie is getting tired, and he shouldn't be getting tired because he's a holodeck character, but because of the power drain and the attack on the power systems and whatnot and the corruption of the character, the physical embodiment of the holodeck he's in is wearing on Badgie also. So he decides to up it up a notch and freeze him out. Then he adds a snow blizzard frozen landscape to the holodeck, try and freeze out Badgie. This kind of works. Comes down to the point where Badgie's kind of catching up to him, Rutherford and Tandy. So Rutherford comes down the mountain a little bit, and a fight between father and son, programmer and the programmee, to which it was a bloody fight. Badgie stabs Rutherford, and then towards the end, Rutherford wins, and then as Badgie is fading out, he's like, I want to cut your foot off. Then Badgie says, diplomatic immunity, and then he fades away, and Rutherford snaps his neck and goes, oh, Badgie! And so that was the end of that. So pretty soon, on the A plot, Commander Ransom comes down the hall with some of the crew and starts telling Mariner and Fletcher and Boimler that they have a lot of explaining to do. A core's missing, ejection from the ship, damage, whatever. And what happens is Mariner tells Ransom Fletcher was the hero. So in the next scene, you see Fletcher getting promoted and transferred off the ship to the Titan. And the Titan is supposedly the ship that Captain Riker is on, and that's the joke there, which was pretty funny. And then we have Boimler and Mariner talking about how the Titan was Boimler's dream job there. Fletcher got it instead, so that was kind of bittersweet for them. And it come to find out in the ending of the C plot, Rutherford and Tandy, the holodeck gets reset, the program shuts down, restarts, and Badgie's there. Can I teach you something? And they're like, no. And Tandy's like, does he remember trying to kill us? And then they say, no, not today. We're just fixing to leave. Rutherford's beat up. And Tandy, they leave the holodeck. And Badgie says, I'll always be here to help you. I'm always here. And the door shuts on Badgie. So he's still a little evil, and he's stuck in the holodeck. Just nobody knows about it. So that was pretty good. So overall, we had some new ships. The Drukmani scavenger ship, which was pretty cool. It looked like a tugboat with dump truck bins in the back with little force fields keeping the wreckage. That was pretty nice. We also see the Starfleet wreckage. Looked like maybe 2 or 3 different ships is what they're going to have to say, because the Drukmani scavengers were throwing like the same pieces at them at the Cerritos. So like the engine nacelles, they threw a couple of those. So, adding that up, there was a couple of ships. So it had to be a couple of ships worth of stuff. Never did say what was in the cargo. I wish we'd found out. Some clever little joke or something, like paper clips or something, making it not worthwhile. In the ship, the Drukmani scavenger ship, that's pretty cool. I'd like to try and make that, so we'll see how that goes. And the wreckage had its own ships. They looked like cargo ships, cruisers from the TOS era. And the wreckage seemed to be ships from the original series era to the animated series era. So that was nice to see those. I'd like to see those fully put together. What was it, NCC 520 or 503? I'll have to take a look. So we had possibility of the wrecked ship, and then you had the new Drukmani scavenger ship, which was pretty cool. Now, in the way of new aliens and new people and whatnot, we have the Drukmani scavengers, which I really liked. They're kind of like, they kind of remind me of the Klingons a little bit, a cross between the Klingons and Ferengi. We'll just put it that way. I enjoyed them. Now, the new person was Ensign Fletcher, or let me say Lieutenant Fletcher for those 6 days. So we got to meet him. He's a real idiot. He seems to be that everybody's friend of the jock in your friend circle. Is not too bright. He's all the brawn you need. So that's the way Fletcher was. An idiot. Totally full of dumb ideas all the way through this episode. So we'll see how that goes. Now, for the ranking for this episode, I give 6 out of 10. For the season ranking, I give that. It's not a bad episode, but it's not the best episode. So it's not a great episode, but it's not a bad episode. So somebody has to be on the bottom. So this is the number 6 out of 6 shows we've gotten so far. If they brought Badgie back but redesigned his character to be more of a badass, redesign the character to make it look like Plane, and then when everybody leaves he reverts to his stupid looking character, just redesign it, give him more possibilities. It'll make a great toy for kids, so that's for sure. So I guess they need their toys, being able to sell toys, so we'll see how that goes. I like the 3 plot lines. The mission plot line was enjoyable. It was fun to see him getting beat down by throwing all the wreckage at him and not being able to fire back and just wear him down in that regard. I think abandoning ship came way too easy. I mean, I probably wouldn't have went there. That was probably the down point of that story. Now, the B plot with Mariner and Boimler, I like that. I like the choo-choo shirts. I like the choo-choo story. I liked how they made, and when they added that third shoe, and it was just awesome. That was funny. The C plot was probably the weakest of the 3, but it was still enjoyable. Still had some good parts in it. I got to see Bajoran Marketplace, and the mountain was pretty cool, and the visuals on this show continue to be really good. So no matter, even if it's a fair story, the visuals are really good on it, so that keeps my interest. Now, let's see, the best lines. At the start of it, of course, they're all doing the engine noises, and Ransom looks around and tries to call security. Something is very wrong down here. He's talking about all them standing in the hallway doing noises. It does look kind of a little bizarre and like, okay, some attention needs to be drawn here. That was funny. When they're on the bridge, when the captain's asking what we can do, and one of the crew says, we can't do anything, we have a treaty with them, we can't fire on them, it'll be an act of war. And then she asks Shax what he wants to do, and he says, I advise we fire on them. As soon as he was told he couldn't do that, that's what he wanted to do. That was funny. The line we got from the doctor from the trailer was funny, and I wasn't expecting to put in here, but it was actually a little funnier than when it was in the trailer, because it didn't finish out. It was, do you know how hard it is to get cheese out of fur in a sonic shower? That was funny. And the line, oh, it is a little higher, when they're talking about the engine noises. Ransom tackles Boimler, and at that moment, Mariner's like, yeah, okay, it is a little higher. And the line, she's just a cat in a coat, that was pretty good. Now, the episode was fair, but like I say, out of 6 episodes, probably number 6 for me. It's not terrible. It's not Spock's brain by any means. I still like the visuals and stuff like that, so I enjoyed it. I'm going to stick with that ranking of 6 out of 10 for the episode, and I think that's just going to be about it. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like down below, please, as this takes a lot of work, so if you would subscribe, like, or even share this would help me out a whole lot. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to interact with you down below. And I will see you next week. Have a good one.